We're going to look at a PowerPoint here, and then I'll also show you what it looks like when you access the Wisconsin Consortium online, if you ever need to, if you haven't done that before. So the first thing, which I know those of you who have already downloaded, you've done these few steps here in the beginning, but first you do need to download the Libby app from your app store. For Apple devices, that's right on the top is the icon for the app on your phone, and then Android devices, you go to the Google Play Store. Unfortunately, it is not yet in the Amazon App Store, so that means that Kindle Fires cannot yet access Libby. We have been waiting on that for some time, and there's no word on when it's coming yet. So that's kind of a sit and wait situation, but for now, so it's Apple and Android devices. Once you download it, that's what Libby looks like. At least I think it does. Sometimes they might change it a little bit. Yeah, it looks a little different now. Instead, I guess her head is more ducked down into the books. But same colors, same Libby icon. When you first open the app, it does welcome you, and it asks if you have a library card. You would want to click yes. And then it kind of goes through a bunch of other questions here. If you are just trying to log in to another device, because you can have a tablet and a phone both logged in at the same time if you want, then you would select copy from my other device, which is on the top there. And then it's going to give you a security code to link them up so that, you know, whichever book you're in on whatever device, they'll sync up. Otherwise, if this is your first time, then you'd, usually I do the Guess My Library, because most people will have the GPS on their device, but if you don't, you would search for your library. But if we do Guess My Library, it then comes up with a map and asks, I think this is your library. If it is, then you would click This Is My Library down at the bottom, and it does say South Central Library System, and then it says Middleton. You just want to make sure it does say South Central Library System. There are close names to our system elsewhere, so just be sure about that. And then it asks you, what are you mostly going to read on? If you're mostly going to read in the Libby app, then you just hit Libby. If you have a Kindle and it's something that you're going to send to the Kindle app because that's how you're going to read, you would do that. A lot of people on Android tablets will use the Kindle app on their tablet, so that's why it asks about Kindle. Just because if they have Kindle books and also use a Kindle, it's a way they can keep everything together. And then you would select Sign In with My Library Card, which is the image on the right side. And this is the point where then you would sign in. So you select your library from the first list, and you would select South Central Library System, and then it also would have a dash in cat libraries. And then you would just put in your card number. If it asks for a password at any point, you know you have not selected the correct library because we don't make you put in your PIN number to log in. So that's how you know you need to go back and select a different library. And once you do that, you're in. So this probably looks familiar if you've already been using Libby. This is your Explore page in your library. So if you look down at the bottom, there's two different sections to the Libby app. One is your library and the other is your shelf. So in your library, you can, homepage, you can scroll down and see popular collections. There's also curated lists to search through. The one we're looking at on that day was Here Comes the Bride. So that was as wedding season was approaching. And as you scroll through, you would be able to also see a list of popular fictions, or popular collections, sorry, fiction is at the top. And if you notice, each section also gives you the amount of titles they have for each one. Let's go back. And if you look down at the corner of that popular collections, you can explore all of the collections. So if you would click on that link, you would then get more options than just what is shown here. And that's a really great way to try and search. When you go into one of those genres, so I just clicked fiction, so you then at the top get a listing of how many books, how many of them are audiobooks. If you click on each one of these that have like the dotted line underneath them, it'll bring you to that list. So if I click on the audiobook list here, it's going to give me specifically fiction that are audiobooks. There's also fiction that's romance, mystery, literature. If you hit the more, you'll get another extra list. You can also just start browsing the full list down at the bottom. And in that, you can also use the refine button that's on the right side of the screen. Here you can sort it by date added or published. You can change the language in here if you're looking for like a Spanish language book. There's also audience. So if you're specifically looking for a fiction book for a child, you could put juvenile in there. There's a few other options, but usually if it's just an adult book, you would probably be looking under general, which is what it's usually set as a default. And then there's the compatibility. So this would be whether or not you're looking for audiobook, ebook, or a Kindle book. But that is the refine section for searching as well. And you can also set your search preferences so that you don't have to go through and change them all the time if there's a way that you like to search. So the way that you do that is this little plus symbol up at the top near the border of the green and white there. If you click on that, that brings down your preferences. And here you could have availability set to everything, which is what you would want if you're looking for a title that could be a title that you have to put on hold, because there are still wait lists in Libby, just like for physical books in the library. You could also switch it to available now so that you wouldn't have to have a wait list and you just immediately can borrow it and start reading it. I find myself often switching it back and forth between everything and available now, because there are times where I finish a book and I really don't know what I want to read. So I just hit available now so I can just see and search and then start reading right away. And again, there's the sort by language, audience, and the compatibility. When you hit apply preferences, it's going to be there every single time. So if you ever select available now, you would need to make sure that afterwards you switch it back to everything, because then the next time you search for a book with a specific title and you can't find it, it could be because you have the availability section in your preferences set to available now. And if it's something that you need to put on hold, it's not going to show up.
How do you go back and switch that?
You would just
Oh,
when
I
you
see.
see where
Yeah.
the under like little dot lines are.
Mhm.
So everything you would just click on or tap on everything, and then it would give you the options.
Yeah, okay. My screen, I'm on an iPad. My screen looks a little different than yours. Is that typical?
It could look a
Things
little
aren't
different. Things
things
also,
aren't exactly in the same order and
yeah, and things have gotten updated just recently, so they might have changed the order that some of these are in.
okay. Okay.
And sometimes they change the color, like instead of being this gray, it could be like maroon. They kind of change
Yeah.
that up.
It wasn't I didn't go through exactly the same path you did to get here, but I did get here.
No, that's fine.
Some of the things you showed earlier weren't exactly the same as on my iPad.
Yeah, some of the like the book lists they show and everything, those do change daily. So
Okay.
and it also changes. I think it might even be like in your region or your library system. Like they might
Okay.
different things that show up.
Okay.
The other way to search is just by using the search bar at the top. So anytime that
So
you,
how did you get, where are you now?
so I'm gonna go back. So up here at the
Oh,
top,
okay.
there's the magnifying glass.
Okay.
When you
Okay.
click on that, it should just automatically bring up the search bar up at the top. It just kind of appears, and then it'll disappear
Okay.
again later. But here,
So if you want to search, okay.
yeah, you can search by title or author, or even
Okay.
a subject or genre. It kind of works like a Google search bar in that sense.
Okay.
And when, so I think this is, oops, thing's touchy. This was a book list that I clicked into for this example. Um, it was best books of 2019. And when it has everything laid out for you, it'll have the word borrow next to it if it's available now. And if you need to place a hold, it's going to say place hold. And the ones where it says place hold, what I have highlighted here is there's a little calendar that you can tap on, and it's going to tell you what the likely time wait is going to be for you. So for this book, it was Two Can Keep a Secret by Karen McCanus. At that time, it was a 6-month wait. So there was 10 copies in use, 25 people waiting in total, and 3 people waiting per copy. So anytime you have a hold, it's going to have that calendar button, and you just tap on it, and it'll let you know the likelihood of when you might get it. And that's really helpful, especially if it's something that you really, really, really want to read, but then you find out it's really popular. Then you kind of have an idea, and then you can make your choice on whether or not you want to wait to read it digitally, or if you want to try and get it in the library, or if you just wanted to end up buying it, because sometimes that does happen, especially with some of those popular books that come out. And if you notice too, underneath where it says borrow or place a hold, they have a play sample or read sample. These are, looks like this one's an audiobook, so it says play, and then this one says read. So you can kind of get a feel of what the book is about. And then you can also click on the cover of the book to get more information about the book and read like a synopsis of it. And then there's also this tag button, and tags you use as like book lists. So if you want to make a list of books that you might want to read later, you would use the tag button. So if we wanted to borrow one, I just chose a random one in the fiction section. I did a Nicholas Sparks. So you can hit the borrow button right on the search results page here. You can also click in on the cover, like I said, and get the synopsis of the book. And there also is a borrow button here as well. So there's 2 different buttons on different pages to allow you to borrow. Once you hit borrow, it'll tell you you are borrowing and have the title, and it's coming from the Wisconsin Public Library Consortium. So that's the consortium that we're a part of for the whole state. And it says 21 days. So when you first start checking out, it might have a different time limit. There's 14 days and there's also 7 days. If you ever need to change it, you would just tap where it says 21 days or the number, and then it'll give you the options and you can select that to change it. And that's how you would update the setting of how many days. So the next time that you would check out a book, it should be the one that you selected. And for ebooks, the longest you can check out is 21 days. And for audiobooks, the longest is 14 days. But you would make sure that that's set, and then you would tap on borrow. And then after it borrows it, it gives you an option. You can keep browsing, or you can go to your shelf, or you can just open the book right from here and start reading.
What is when you say go to shelf, what is that?
That's where we're going next. That's where all of your books will go when you want to read, or where you can see your holds.
Okay.
So here is your shelf. So remember when I talked about in the beginning, there's 2 sections to the app. There's your library, and that's down at the bottom on your left side. And then there's your shelf.
Oh, okay.
You can always get back to the shelf either by, on the previous page, you know, it said go to shelf. So you can tap on go to shelf. If you're searching or reading, shelf is going to be down at the bottom no matter what. So you can tap on loans, and that's where you're going to see what you're currently reading. It'll give you a lot of information about each book here. You can see that there's, when something is expiring soon, it's in red to try and get your attention. It's like, do you want to place a hold? When you want to try and renew or place a hold, you would tap manage loan, and then you would tap renew or place a hold, whatever it's going to let you do. Because if there is a wait list, you can just place a hold again. You can't renew it at that point, and it's going to let you know. It also gives you the amount of time you have left. So for this wildflower book, it told me that it was due in 5 hours. So it's really down to the wire for you on that. And then like the Love and Ruin book underneath there, that says due in 7 days. And then if you're ready to read it, you just would tap where it says open audiobook or open in Libby, and then you start reading. Oh, and also, one thing I want to point out too is these little check marks for each book. This also means that it has been downloaded and it is on your device.
Oh, okay.
The book Montauk here, it does not have a check mark. That's because it is currently downloading. So if you do not have Wi-Fi, it is not going to download until you have Wi-Fi. And you can take it off of Wi-Fi and read your book wherever you want, as long as there's the check mark, because that means that the whole book, all the chapters are downloaded to your device, So you don't need the internet. After that, you would just need to open up the app and the book is there. So that's important to pay attention to if you're going on a trip or going somewhere where you're not going to have access to the internet. And it usually does download pretty quickly. The audiobook sometimes will take a little longer. I think that's why I caught it mid-download in the picture. If you go back to your shelf and click on holds, oops, this is what you would see. At that point, I only have one book on hold. It tells you, again, you have the calendar. You can click on or tap on that to get the specific of how many copies there are, how many people are waiting per copy. But it does just generally give you a time. So that was over 6 months. And the manage hold here is where you can delete the hold if you no longer want it on hold. That's an important thing, because sometimes you put something on hold and then you ended up getting it some other way. So then you just need to delete the hold. And then you can also suspend your holds, just like you can with physical items. You will keep going in the line, but it'll hold it until you're ready. And then essentially when you take it off suspend, it kind of bumps you in the line because it held your place. The other section of your shelf is your tags. So like I said before, it's like making book lists. And the default is to have the tag start out as an icon. So here there's a little image of books. This one underneath it is a thumbs up. And then I also made one that's just text, because you can change them. If you want to change them, you would have to click into the tag and then hit actions, and then you can rename the book list. So I renamed the third one just bad books. So if I had a list of books that it wasn't good, I couldn't even finish it, or I didn't like it, I can make lists. Because sometimes people, you know, want to know, like, oh, what did you like? What did you not like? And some people like to keep track of those things. So this is a way that you can do it. When you go into each tag list, you get the direct link to the book for checking it out or putting it on hold. If you notice on the right side, you have kind of a preview of some images. I think I only have one book in each of those. So tags are helpful if you like book lists, but a lot of people have their own preferences for that. So don't feel bad if you don't want to use it. And you also have your settings. So if you notice, this is on most pages, but up in the very top right corner of the screen, there is the little Libby icon. Right now there's on this picture here, number 7 on it, because there's some notifications on there. When you tap that, it kind of slides out and shows you what the notifications are. If you just kind of slide left to right through the notifications, you'll clear them out. And then you also have your settings down below. So you do have your Wisconsin Public Library Consortium linked here. If you notice, you can add a library. You can have more than one. This usually comes into play if, say, you live down south during the winter, like Florida or whatnot, and you have a library that you attend there while you're living there temporarily. So you might have a library card that you could put in, because they also use Overdrive at their library. And then you could switch back and forth between the libraries. Technically, each consortium that there is, or library system that uses Overdrive, they get to select the books that they have in their collections. So if you have a library elsewhere in the country that you use as well, you might have access to other titles. So it could be beneficial for you. There also is some stuff in the help and support section. There is the Learn Libby section. which has some good tips about more Libby stuff. There's also a survey you can take. You can change what you read your books with. So if you did say you wanted to read in Kindle previously, but you actually want to just change to read in the Libby app, that's where you would change it. And then there's the help section. So if you ever have anything weird going on, you can't log in, you keep trying to download the book and it never appears in your shelf, you can click on the Get Some Help button, and then that usually sends a help request that will come to us. And then if we feel that we can't solve the problem, we do a work request with Overdrive so that they can dig into it deeper.
Can I ask you a question about reading on Kindle or reading on Libby?
Yes.
I don't have a Kindle itself. I have an iPad, and I thought in the past there was a Kindle app on an iPad, but when I tried to do it recently, the way I finally got the book I wanted was by reading it on Libby. Has that changed? Because I think I selected Kindle at first and I couldn't find it anywhere.
Well, you can use the Kindle app on an iPad. And when you do that, you would have to make sure that you're signed into your Amazon account because it kind of links everything together.
Okay.
So if that's not signed in, that might be a place where it stopped. So
Okay.
usually if you have like the Amazon app or Amazon signed in on your web browser and open to that page, then it should connect automatically.
Okay. Is there any advantage to reading it on Kindle, or is it just as
The
to read it on Libby?
only real difference is just personal visuals. So like if you like the fonts or the note-taking features that might be in Kindle versus Libby. For Libby, you can bookmark things, but you can't make like notes. I think in Kindle you might be able to make notes, especially if you're using a Kindle Fire. A lot of people previously used Kindle and they want to keep their library all together. If they haven't had used an older Kindle in the past and have titles still in their Kindle library, that's just what they like to stay with. So there's that too.
Okay. But if I'm new at it, I might as well just use Libby, right?
Libby works great. It's a great upgrade from the older Overdrive app. Everything is really seamless, and I haven't had any issues so far myself. The only times that I would have issues is if I can't sign in, and that would be just a bug that everybody's having, and that Overdrive fixes fairly quickly within a few hours of the issue. They usually don't have extreme outages all the time, so it's usually pretty reliable.
Okay.
So I talked a little bit earlier about if you want to renew or return your books when you're in your loan shelf. That's what it looks like when you want to return early or renew your loan. Just the last page of the shelf there. And when you do click in to read and just start reading book, it should show up with the cover as the first page. After a while, the top and the bottom of your screen will disappear and it'll be just the book. If you ever need to see like where you are in the book or up at the top, you need to get back and get out of the book, you would just tap in the middle of the page and then everything should reappear. So it just kind of, after not being touched for a few seconds, it just kind of slides off, but it'll always come back. Down at the bottom, it has kind of a at 0%. You can tap that and change that so that it says like you're on page 5 of 265. And then you can also use the slider down at the bottom to move throughout the book. And there's also this sync button. So if you ever are using more than one device to read the same book and you feel like it's
Okay.
not updated and that you were actually further than what it's saying, you could hit sync and it should match everything back up. And then also at the top, there are a few buttons. So we have the menu button up in the top right corner, which is the 3 hamburger lines. And then right next to it is the bookmark button. So if there's ever a page you want to bookmark, you would click the bookmark or tap it. And then you can look at a list of your bookmarks in your settings. And then you can also use the search magnifying tool here if you're looking for even a certain word. If there's some like special thing that is in the book that you're trying to find, that's where you can find it. One of the other cool things about Libby is that if you run out of time and you don't get to finish the book and there's a wait list and then you have to wait to get the book again when you're back on the list, the next time you read it, Libby remembers where you were. So far, since Libby has started, there have been in the beginning a few bugs, but they supposedly have been fixed and I haven't had an issue. Every time that I have rechecked out a book a few weeks later, whenever I got it, it did go right to the place that I last was at, so it remembers. That's really nice. That's actually been happening to me often lately. I keep running out of time. I'm not reading fast enough. When you tap on that menu button, again, you have the same search tool. You also are able to select chapters and you can jump around by chapter. When you select bookmarks, that shows your list of all the things that you have placed a bookmark on. There's also your history. That'll tell you how many pages you read on what day. Sometimes that can be kind of helpful if you're trying to figure out how quickly you're getting through the book. Then there's also reading settings and tips and secrets. So that's what the chapters look like. And it also tells you how many pages per chapter there are. There's the bookmark, so I just had one bookmark on there. And it tells me it's on page 10. So it's all pretty straightforward on that. History, that was the first day I opened up that book, so it didn't have any history yet. And the reading settings are really the important thing. It has a text scale that you can change, so if you need it to be large print, you can slide the scale up, and it does give you a live sample at the top of what it's going to look like. So that's really nice. And then there is lighting. So there's, regular bright light with the white background and the black font. Then there's also the sepia tone, which kind of makes everything a little bit more off-white and looks more like an actual, like, older paper book. And then the dark mode, which is one of my favorite modes at night. It makes the background black and the font is white, and it helps take away some of that blue light that comes off of your screen. And so it's really helpful at night because the more blue light you have at nighttime, the harder it is to fall asleep. So it kind of helps get you into sleep mode. And I really enjoy that mode. And then you can also change the font. So there are a few different fonts you can choose from. If you really like the font that paperback books are in, you can put it to that. This is the publisher default that it's on right now. And if you are dyslexic, there also is the Open Dyslexic font, which is a special font that helps some dyslexic people read better. It does not help everybody. Some people find it worse than just regular font. So that's really a personal choice, but it is there for anyone's use. And then there's the tips and secrets section. This stuff changes varying on what features they might add or take away from the app. But sometimes you can find some interesting tips. I'm not going to cover them today, but you can definitely peruse those at your leisure. And I also wanted to show you an example of what an audiobook looks like when you open it up. It gives you the cover of the book. You have the same kind of slider down at the bottom. And you also can change, again, what it's showing you for how much you have completed. So this is telling you that you have 9 minutes and 50 seconds left of the chapter. You can tap that and change it to the percentage or the different options that it has for you. So it can read out different depending on what you like to look at. Up at the top, there are a few extra features that aren't in ebooks. There is the time icon here. That is for how fast it's reading the book. So a lot of people like to do, like 1.5 times or more for speed, just to cut out some of the pauses that people take in the way that it's read out. And then you can also just have it set to the regular default. And then there also is the sleep timer. So that's the moon. A lot of people do listen to audiobooks while they're getting ready for bed and falling asleep. So you can set a timer so that it stops after being on for 15 minutes or 30 minutes or however long it takes you usually to fall asleep, just because then you're less likely to miss a lot of the book if it just keeps going all night and you wake up to it still playing. And then with your history, under the menu, you then can see like what pages it supposedly read on what day. And if you know you fell asleep pretty fast and you don't remember something happening, it's easier to find where to go back in the book and start again with. And then again, you have your bookmark. So some things are similar, but there's a few extra buttons for audiobooks. So again, you have your chapters, bookmarks, history, tips and secrets. And the settings are just how fast it's reading and the sleep timer. So that is most of what I have to show you with the PowerPoint. Just remember that you're browsing and checking out, downloading and reading is all within the app, unless you're going to use a Kindle app. Then it's going to also, in conjunction, use Amazon. And you have 2 sections. There's the library, that's on the left side, and the shelf that's on the right. And then always make sure to check what your loan period is and change it if it's at the 7 days, only because I don't know most people who only want a book for 7 days. And there also is that help site that is really helpful, that if you're having weird issues with Libby, sometimes it can answer your questions, but that's help.libbyapp.com. Do my desktop and show you the consortium. So if you haven't ever visited the Wisconsin Digital Library Consortium on your web browser, this is what it looks like when you go to it. The web address for this, can't see it because I have stuff covering it, is wplc.overdrive.com. And to sign in, you go to my account and sign in. And then it's going to be very similar to Libby. You're going to select the South Central Library System, LinkCat Libraries, and then put in your number. So I already have mine signed in here. And it is made to look very similar to the Libby app. So if you notice, a lot of the icons are similar for audiobook, ebook. A lot of the visuals and the same colors are used. And you have the same kind of curated book lists on the home page. And you also have the book icon is for your shelf. So you have loans and holds, wish list for your tags, your history, and the settings. And similar. It looks slightly different, but it's similar. But this is a way that you can also search and find books to check out and put on hold. So you don't necessarily have to be on your device to do that. If you do check out something or put it on hold, it will show up in the Libby app. So that's the great thing about using this on your computer versus on your tablet as well. So you have multiple ways to access it. So I just wanted to show that in case you ever need to look for a book but you don't have your tablet with you. You can always do that from your web browser. So that is the main portion of our class. Did you have any questions?